start chicks around here. Up a little. Okay, fantastic. Let's all take our seats now. Okay, fantastic. Let's take our seats, everybody. Okay, so I have a question for you all. Who made a brand new connection just then? Fantastic. Who made more than one new connection then? Who made more than 3? More than 5? Okay, so we got about 3 or 4 new connections. Fantastic. And that's what this is all about, making international, global connections. So please take a seat, everybody. And moving ahead to our next section, we have a new panel, another panel discussion lined up. It's entitled Building Bridges Promoting Global Citizenship Through Cross-Cultural Education and Collaboration. This session promises to be a melting pot of ideas with panelists from various corners of the globe sharing their insights on creating a more inclusive and empathetic world through education. Let's welcome Rhonda L. Bowen, Global Strategic Communication Guide at BELLS, the session's moderator.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Rhonda. And now we'll invite up the panelists also. Yuri Hirayama, School Director and Educator of the Yuri Education Center. Pamela Furr, Founder and CEO, Puzzlebox Academy. Cranston Sai Hokwenda, Founder, Consult Cranston. Samita Bhattacharya, Founder and Managing Director of Frankly Speaking Tuition. Elisa Prisco, Head Special Projects and New Business, World International School of Torino. Please welcome them all up onto the stage. Over to you, Rhonda.
Thank you so much. Such a great pleasure to be with you all here today. We are a wonderful mixed group of people doing very, very different things. And so we said the most important thing for us when we all discussed this last week was making sure we give a brief introduction of ourselves and then each of you having the opportunity to ask questions. So I'm joined by 5 other wonderful, inspiring people. There's such a diversity here on the stage, and there's even more diversity out there with you. And so we're looking forward to having the opportunity to share our insights first, and then to make sure you come into the conversation. That's the most important thing for us. I will call each of us up one at a time. Each of us will introduce ourselves just to go through and give some ideas about what we're here to share. And once all 6 of us have had a chance to speak, we're turning everything over to you. What's going to happen in this conversation depends on what you're interested in. We've decided to use first names only when we talk with each other and when we talk with you. That makes life easier for all of us. And we would love it when you come to the microphone and ask a question. Since we're talking about very different things, we'd love it if you would say which person you would like to answer the question first, if it's directed to a special person, because then we make sure we get the best answers for you and see if there are others then who would like to join the conversation as well. So I'm going to start out with Samita, please.
Everybody. Hello everyone. My name is Savita Bhattacharya, and I am an IPDB English literature and language educator, and I have been teaching for the past 15 years, and I am based in Singapore, although I'm an Indian, but I'm based in Singapore, and I have been living there for what, 26 years now, so global citizenship right there. All right, so this is the thing. In an increasingly fragmented world that we live today, global citizenship to me is a kind of an amorphous concept. I mean, what do we do in global citizenship? We perceive individuals who, as citizens in the world that we share, going beyond the concept of community, nationality, society. And the three aspects of today's panel discussion is something that is very passionate, that I'm very passionate about, in the sense that global citizenship, collaboration, and cross-cultural learning, they are all very connected, they are all very interdependent. That is to say, in a cross-cultural setting, learning cannot happen without collaboration. And if we do not expose our students and make them knowledgeable and respectful about other cultures, global citizenship doesn't happen. If we are marred in stereotypes, if we are constantly judging people, global citizenship will never happen. Trust me, I say this, I have first-hand experience. You are an Indian. Oh, you teach English literature and language. How come? You're an Indian. Oh, you must be in IT. So we have to get rid of these stereotypes in order to promote global citizenship. Yes, we are Indian. Yes, we belong to call centers, but trust us, we have an existence outside as well. Okay? Sooner we get rid of these stereotypical concepts and personal bias, trust me, global citizenship will knock on our doors, all right? And so, to move on, in Singapore, I have been the head of faculty for quite a few international schools, and on an average classroom that I would teach would consist of members, students from Singapore, China, India, UK, US, South America, Korea, Japan, Thailand. Did you count how many? Exactly. And none of them, most of them, they are not native speakers of English. So imagine teaching English literature and language to a classroom full of these young learners, mostly unenthusiastic, sometimes enthusiastic, and so from such a rich background, ethnic background, that is to say. How do I keep them engaged? How do I tell them that use multiculturalism, use your curiosity rather than your judgment to approach something that is unknown, something that is uncertain? Inculcating this into the students, this awareness and this habit, is not possible without collaboration. Bring few students together from different backgrounds, make them work together. That will automatically start generating respect for each other. We'll build a team, we'll teach them respect, knowledge, appreciation for one another. another. Unless that is done, global citizenship cannot happen. That's where collaboration, in my opinion, comes. Because collaboration is a wonderful tool to sort of, give a structured framework to something that is very abstract at first blush. So if we can kind of encourage our students to work in teams, to collaborate, instead of competing against each other, it helps. It teaches them the true meaning of global citizenship. So, global citizenship not only is important, but at the same time, it is probably needed in today's world where everything is fractured, everything is fragmented. And this can be achieved, as I say, I'm a big fan of collaborative teaching. IBDP very much encourages collaboration. And I personally feel that collaboration teaches the students to be open-minded. They are better at communication because they communicate with each other in a multicultural environment. And yeah, sure. Yeah,
So we make sure we have time? Great, thank you. It's a wonderful introduction.
I
to
do
the
get
subject.
carried away.
Yeah. It's my job to make sure we collaborate, right? Exactly. There we go. Thank you, Sarita. Great. So we're going to move to the gentleman in the middle. We're so happy we have a gentleman on our team as well. Cranston, go right ahead.
My name is Cranston, and I am a 10 years, over 11 years, I think, in tertiary education experience in Western Australia. And our interpretation, for example, about what we felt was building the bridges was our involvement in building a language learning platform. Out of Australia, we call it the African Language Academy. We did see the space. Unfortunately, there were not too many African sort of teaching platforms out there, so we kind of filled that space. And what we found, which we sort of stumbled upon it by accident, was how much multicultural families do not necessarily understand the local language of either the spouse or the children do not really know both languages for both parents. And so we filled that space, and we believe that we are promoting global citizenship in that direction.
What you're doing. Thank you so much. So we're now going to go to Yuri, our next panelist.
Thank you so much. My name is Yuri. I'm from Japan, from Tokyo. And I'm very passionate about education and sustainability. I started to teach math and Japanese at the age of 20 when I was attending the University of Texas in Arlington. I started to teach at Northlake College in Texas. And then I was very fascinated about teaching. And since then, I have been teaching mathematics, sciences, languages. And then, yes, for about 20 years. And I recently realized that Japanese students do not know much about sustainability because their lifestyle is too comfortable. So I decided to major in sustainability and in CSR and my MBA. My MBA is in Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico, but I take MBA classes online. And then I became passionate about sustainability because, well, not so many Japanese students can speak English, but so they do not have enough opportunities to read sustainability-related books. So I introduced SDG 17 goals related to sustainability to my students, and little by little, my Japanese students became interested in SDGs. And I frequently hold presentations, workshops, so that they get used to presenting their ideas. They get used to mentioning their opinions. And then since we do not include so many foreign students, I started to include people from Pakistan, people from Tanzania, people from Puerto Rico, and Colombia, and then I started to hold Zoom sessions, and that has been quite successful. And then additionally, I decided to establish one more school. It's called Yuri Education Center, and I just found it 4 months ago, so it's quite new, but I'm very happy to know that a lot of students are interested in learning sustainability. And I myself learning about CSR and sustainability too. So this is my introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. Now we're going to turn it over to Elisa, and her microphone even worse. Isn't that wonderful? Off we go.
Collaboration, thank you. Hello, I'm Elisa Brisco. I'm based in Italy, and for the past 11 years I have covered head roles in international schools that deliver the international baccalaureate programs, whose motto, education for a better and more peaceful world, finds its founding elements in the work Educational Techniques for Peace, written by Marie-Thérèse Mauret after the Second Post-World War. Why am I saying this? Because I would like to approach the relevance of our topic by considering the side effect of its disregard, that is, major conflicts. History has repeatedly shown us that when individuals are ruled by immoderate and undisciplined need for cultural belonging, the consequential fanatism leads to blind hatred against others, where each group is deadlocked in their rightness and fearing that acknowledging the other means denying oneself. Therefore, it's a matter of surviving or succumbing. So how does this end? How does great peace is achievable? Well, according to the world-renowned psychologist Bert Hellinger, he would say that peace is achievable when the desire of annihilation ceases and when the individual recognizes that there are no better or worse human beings. In other words, when there is the mutual recognition of validation and respect. At home, peace starts as an act of intent and willpower. At school, it further develops as a mission through intercultural understanding and respect. And this is ruled by specific policies. You know, international schools are an epitome for this because by nature they are characterized by cultural dissonance. Teachers, staff, students, families, all different and unique. Therefore, it is essential that they get educated about international mindedness, which the IB intends as a shared attitude to openness towards world cultures and their appreciation. In essence, international mindedness is the decline of egocentricity, and thus it is the commitment to collaboratively work to create a third cultural space, which this is what the metaphor of bridges stand for. There's me, there's you, and there's an us space. And only by doing so, being devoted, I would say, to that, may we become global citizens, where global, which is a word that very often scares, is not the loss of cultural and national identity. Rather, it's recognizing and embracing a sense of shared humanity. Thank you.
So, Pamela, you're next. How's your microphone too?
Good, wonderful.
All right. I hope you all can hear me. My name is Pamela Furr. I am the CEO, CFO of Puzzle Box Academy. I'm also the janitor, the custodian, the therapist, the teacher. There is no job in my company that I would hire someone to do that I wouldn't do myself. I am also the president of a nonprofit called Bridge to Tomorrow Foundation, which is why I'm here, which is to make sure that there is an education model for caregivers across the world in order to understand the neurodivergent learner. So listening to everyone here, I had a wonderful speech presented and I'm ready to go. And I'm like, guys, I've listened to our panel, I've listened to the speakers today, and how about we get rid of race? Sometimes the most simplistic thing is the easiest. I am a human being. My students are human beings that just happen to live in different countries or different states. And if we take that approach as a community, that we are all human beings just from different locations around the world, then we are already setting the correct program for our kids.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So nice to be joining you today. And it's really great to see that there are so many people here who are interested in education. My name is Rhonda Bowen. I'm a global strategic communication guide. And I've worked with people from more than 70 countries directly, not just somewhere in a fuzzy little place in a virtual community, to actually help them understand how important it is to communicate across cultures. And I say across cultures because I don't believe in only what part of the world are we from or what does our passport say. That's our geographical culture. But I work in businesses, and therefore for me, organizational culture is just as important. So why can't financial people talk to engineers? And why do salespeople always fight with the finance people? That's a cultural thing as well. And my purpose in life is to make sure we co-create the solutions that help best professionals, people I work with called working in business, engineering, science, and technology, to make sure that those things that aren't working, that they co-create the solutions that do make them work. And one of the great things that happened here was when I was asked to come to this conference and they said, would you be on a panel discussion? And I said, yes. The most wonderful thing that happened is that I get to share a stage with these other wonderful people. And now we have the chance to make sure that you get to share the stage as well, not have to come up on the stage, but there's a nice microphone for all of you to use. And let me just tell you why we decided to do things in this order. We started with Samita because it was this idea of collaborative learning in general, and she gave us a great introduction to that. Cranston then pulled it back to one very specific part of things, which is talking about African languages, something very specific, but therefore very diverse because there are so many languages in Africa. Then we went to Yuri, coming up with one of the world's global challenges at the moment, sustainability, something I'm also privileged to be working on as well. And then a second global challenge with Elisa about trying to find peace in the world and how we all live with each other better. And then we went to Pamela, who's concentrating on both young people and adults, and in this inclusive neurodiversion responsibility that we all have to make sure that everybody is being taken care of. And for me, the fact that I only work with adults nowadays, but the important thing is that we're co-creating together the solutions that we need. So now it is your turn to help co-create this session. If you would like to ask a question, there's a nice microphone here in the front. And as I said, if you would like to tell us who your question is to be directed at first, that would be a great help for us so we know who should answer. We really appreciate any insights you would like to share or questions that you have at the moment.
Hello, Anisu again. This question will be directed to Cranston, if that's correct. It's a bit of a two-part question, and I think one of the panelists also mentioned something about cultural dissonance. So both of you can kind of get into this question. My question is that I come from South Africa, right? And with the perspective that I have from that side is that we have a global community, right? But in the workplace, there's this cultural dissonance that comes. It's in Africa, but then we have people from West Africa coming in. We have people from East Africa coming in. And when it comes to the workplace, there is a dissonance in communication. You know, when you speak about the language, right? It's not just spoken language. There is body language that is involved in that, right? So now you have someone who comes from West Africa. You meet someone in Southern Africa, but we communicate differently. Our body language communicates differently. Our hand gestures communicate differently. Even the tone of voice is different. So one can take a very innocent statement, but just because of that cultural difference, it becomes something of an attack. So my question to you is that what tools or steps have you taken within your education to kind of bridge that gap that allows this cultural dissonance to kind of get a bit closer? Because it's not just language, it's all of these other factors that come in. And yes, we want to take out race, but then how do we then come in to bring that humanness, right? Like if I'm to bring an African perspective to it, we have things like totems. You know that if you're in Southern Africa, you would walk all the way up to the north of Africa, but the one thing that would unite you is that if you have a totem and you're an eagle, wherever you go, you're going to meet people who have that eagle totem, whether they speak a different language or not. You found your communality, right? So now with the next generation or the next step in our global citizenship, what are we doing, or what are those tools that bring that common thing that you guys are using? Sorry, I hope that makes sense. It was a bit loaded.
Well, through our language learning service, what we also discovered is it's not just about learning a different language or at least getting the basics. There's a lot of cultural nuances that come along with the language. And then what's really important is for someone not just to speak the language, but to understand those nuances. And what we do in our style is we touch upon the nuances as well, and then we combine that with the language that we learn. For example, I'm not from North or West Africa, and when we were building the curriculum for teaching that language, we found that they've got a large alphabet. They actually do have an alphabet. So we ourselves had to learn that first, and the nuances behind it, what it means, beyond just the symbol. For example, in Chinese, one symbol could mean a lot of things, right? So we found it important to kind of tell the story around that and then build it interpret, so to speak, into the language. So when you learn on the platform, or the way we deliver the language learning is so that we touch upon the nuances that come along with it. Because stereotyping, not the word we use, it thrives in ignorance. So in the absence of information, then stereotyping just flourishes. So as we deliver that product, the service, we also touch upon the nuances, what they mean. When someone wakes up in the morning and greets you, they don't just greet you, they greet your parents, they greet chickens, they greet the cows. On Southern Africa, for example, in that area, as an example, we don't generally go that far, but then you cannot then ignore that if on the other side of the planet, that's what they do. So we blend that into the service so that people can understand a bit more as they learn the language. Does that answer your question?
You had also mentioned something about cultural dissonance. Maybe you have something you'd like to add.
Well, yes. What I would like to stress that we cannot get rid of cultural dissonance. Our ability stands in handling it, because that would be a pretense if we want to, put down to zero our differences. That wouldn't make sense at all. So, as leaders, as educators, we have to be open-minded and tolerant enough to understand that this dissonance reflects who we are. It's just like Pamela said it before. School is like a family. So imagine the chaos that sometimes there is, within families, because not the cultural matter, but maybe by different tempers and ages and stuff like that. So in school, it's exponential, okay? Because we really have people coming from different places. So the ability of principals, coordinators, and teachers, but the whole community, because when you refer to school, we need to have a broader view, like a larger family. Everyone has a responsibility. It's a collaborative work. So each of us can bring in a valuable impact. But as I said before, the ability stands in juggling with it, in managing it, because otherwise we wouldn't, bring along our diversity, which is instead something that we have to cultivate and treasure. But but in the name of tolerance, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Please come to the microphone. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My small question is, we as the leaders are here in this conference to bring this global cross-cultural education, to take it away to our places and our community. I just want, this question is for all the leaders over here, whom do you think you should empower with, who are going to be the forefront warriors, and what is that we all are thinking, or what is that step that we all would like to take in the forefront to go ahead and do this actual learning or actual cross-cultural education or collaboration or whatever we say. So we as leaders are here to learn, to understand, to share, and to get things. How are we going to empower it, and who are these warriors? Are they our students? Are they our middle leaders? Are they our teachers? Or are they any other education service providers? Who are they? Anyone?
Thank you very much. And then, go ahead, Yuri. Why don't you start, and then we'll go to Samita. Yeah?
As I mentioned, I have already started on Zoom lessons, including Japanese students and students from Pakistan. I started from there. And then I actually let them use the same material, and then I assigned the same homework. And then I asked them to study ahead, and then we discussed together, right? And then I tell my students to listen to their opinions carefully. Like they have to be patient for almost 1.5 hours, but listening skills are very important because most of them actually couldn't identify where Pakistan was and then what kind of religion, for example, what kind of customs. So they need to listen to each student. And at least they should study where the country is, what language is the official language, and what kind of religion. Then by studying those and getting those information, of course they become interested in knowing about the country more, so they can proactively ask questions during the session. So students need to make effort, and also parents actually cannot take them to Pakistan, for example, but at least by showing the map at home, they need to introduce the culture, not only regarding advanced countries, but developing countries information as well. That is my opinion.
Well, I don't know whether it's unique or not, but I do have an explanation for who is going to see. In IB, teachers are facilitators. So students, of course, will take it forward. But I do have a thing to say that alongside with cross-cultural learning and cross-cultural awareness, there has to be diversity of outlook as well. You know, sometimes, all the social movements that they latch on to this one trait or one identity, and it's built around that identity so that it gains attraction, gets the attention of the people. I am not, undermining the need and importance to do so, but I am also saying that use multiculturalism as a lens, not as a site. I'll give you a small anecdotal experience if I can take 2 minutes of your time. So in IB, we teach literature and films, or, it's one of the most popular aspects of IB. So one day I was doing a discussion between, and I was showing them a discussion between Spielberg and Scorsese. They are talking about cinematographic techniques to be used to create tension and suspense, and how to deal with violence, how to best present violence on the screen. And one of my students stood up and said, in Singapore, we are all ma'ams, okay? But Samita ma'am, there is no female representation, there is no African American representation. So this obtuseness bothers me. It just took away the learning. It just completely ruined the learning for. So I can't, completely disappoint the student also. So what I did was, I said, but today's discussion is on cinematographic techniques. Let's focus on that. However, what you do in your next class presentation is you collaborate with your friends, come up with the topic that you suggested, African American representation in movies. And from that, we went even further. We talked about women representation in politics. So you see, it just goes, it has a rippling effect, all right? So definitely this awareness has to be brought on by the students with teacher as a facilitator. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to jump in because earlier today I had someone come to my table and ask me a similar question. They were like, how do I do it? Give me an example. So I'm going to use an example that crosses all cultures, Tourette's syndrome. Tourette's affects you, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Hindu, whether you're from the United States, whether you're Roman Catholic, whether you're Protestant, it doesn't matter. It doesn't see it. So how do you make that inclusive? So we like to use shut the front door. Now that's not what some of my students say because it is an involuntary response. So what we do is called choral responding. Instead of making that a bad thing, we go shut and locked. Not just the teacher, but the students, because you're going to have that outlier. So you're building a sense of pride, not, again, standing out. You're building unity. You're not building exclusivity. It's like, oh, shut the front door. Now we use it in my house too. Shut the front door, yep, shut and locked. But you see how that choral responding then makes that child part of the family unit in the classroom. Where does it begin? With every single one of us in here. We could easily say it begins with the parents, but in the 1,500 families that I have helped, I can let you know that probably 60% of them do not have the strong family structure at home. That family structure, that unit, they are getting from us as educators. Sometimes that teacher is mother and father to that child in that classroom. Remember when I said whole child, if you saw my presentation, we don't know what is going on. Again, it's that ununified principle. You don't know the whole story. So that little bit of time that you have with any student, fill them with a sense of pride. We have a multicultural night at our school. Instead of doing Thanksgiving, we thank all of the families from coming from such diverse backgrounds. And we have the child come in with a sense of pride of where their heritage is from. And we have the child lead that instruction. And guys, if you remember what I said, my kids are all neurodivergent. So if there's no limitation stopping them, imagine what our neurotypical children could do with the same education. So where does it start? It starts right there. Where you put the focus is where you put your attention, your energy. It starts with every single one of us. Every time you experience someone new, remember, don't see with eyes of what color are you wearing? Where are you from? Oh, you're Japanese. Oh, how do I curtsy? Do I bend? Like that. Same thing as what you were saying about the call center. Make fun of your own self. And I'm a ginger through and through, fiery temper. Yes, indeed. But at the same time, I make fun of it. I make fun of it because humor is universal. Some of the best comedians that we've ever had that have walked the stage didn't see individuals, they saw humans, and they made fun of everyone. So just remember to laugh, and remember it starts with you.
Francie, would you like to add anything to this?
I'm basically going to echo what my colleagues have said. I think the real change champions are all the involved parties. A quick example from I keep talking about it, but our academy is that in the beginning we had primarily wanted to teach the children, but then the children need to practice, whether the parents or with friends, and then the parent will have to learn so that they can then converse with the child. So the parent is equally as involved in the learning process as the child who needs to practice what they learned. So really all the change champions are the people that are involved in the process, all stakeholders.
I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to have you come with your question. I spoke at the CXO conference earlier this morning and something came up about leadership as well. And I'd just like to add to the conversation, a leader is a person where other people say, I want to follow that person. For me, leadership is not who it is, it's not where they're from, it's not anything about how they do leadership. There's nothing about that. If there is somebody who's a leader, there will be people to follow. That can be anybody within the educational system, as far as I'm concerned. And the example I always use for this is Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi didn't stand up someday and say, here, I want to be a leader and everybody should follow me. He stood up and said what he believed in, and people believed in that too, and they followed him. And he became a leader. He wasn't naturally just standing up and saying, here I am, I'm the leader. But I think if we look in the education system, we will find so many leaders in so many different places. We just have to make sure that we're having the chance to follow the lead of those people that we believe in that are doing the right things for our world today. Thank you very much. Yes, your question, please, sir.
Yeah, my name is Noel, and I'm from the U.S. And my question, so just to frame the question, in the U.S., 1,000 recruiters from U.S. corporations were surveyed, and they identified 81% of the employers said that they see cross-cultural competence as the most important skill from graduate business students from U.S. programs. And so my question is, if that's such an important thing, at least from a U.S. perspective, how is cross-cultural competence being taught to students in your respective countries? And is that a problem statement? Is it already being addressed? Is that an opportunity, an unmet need? We just want to kind of understand a little bit more about that landscape. Thank you.
Is there any one person you would like to start? Okay.
I can start. That would be the whole panel. But in our situation, what we ended up beginning to do, which is not smart, but what we did was we started building our own storytelling, so that you like I said earlier, you understand more about someone's approaches or what they actually mean if you know a bit more, right? So what we ended up doing is we're adding the storytelling side to it. One of the newer series that we're coming up with is where we interview, a bit of a podcast situation where we interview elderly in a community. So they tell an idiom or a story or a myth or a legend, and then they break it down in a way in which an average person can understand, and then they attach meaning to it. So that's one of the ways in which we're trying to promote that cultural competency. It goes beyond just like, of course, our main through line is the language, but at the same time, that storytelling helps with really understanding where that language is taking you now that you can speak it, so to speak.
I can connect to what you were saying is that, especially in like in the primary years or kindergarten years, children, this is very important to start at a very early stage to be is the storytelling. So to include like books from different cultures, and children are exposed to different stories. And then one technique that we as IB educators find very effective is making them experience the perspective. What does it mean? If you're very young, let's say like through drama, they connect to the story and they try to play like a character. And then at the same time, they are asked to shift and be another character. And they have to reflect, how has my perspective changed? How do I feel differently? Do I see the right things that I saw before? Do they make sense to me at the same time? Or has something changed? And when we go up, you know, you can get to, let's say, like the MUN model, for example, where you bring up very specific and actual conflicts, and they try to experience. But the experiential learning, so how do I get into perspective, is shifting roles. And then listen to yourself, realize what has changed on the biological level, meaning what kind of different emotions run through you and how your thoughts have changed. And before, I used to think this, but now I think that. That's a key, because we do not become global citizens all at once.
okay? It's just like good manners, okay? You don't need to be a decent man or a decent woman when you're a grown-up. It starts from very young age. So it's something that really has to grow with you, but it's daily practice. It's a commitment, and educators really need to believe in that. I hope this helps. I'd like to add just 1 minute to that. And we do a lot of, given the scope of my subject matter, there is a social dimension that goes beyond the text. And we do a lot of role playing. For instance, I was just teaching Death and the King's Horseman, and we, of course, we don't get to teach the original. We were doing a translation of Soinka's iconic play. And it revolves around a very interesting social custom, which is ritual suicide, something we are not exposed to at all in Singapore. So, but then when we started role playing, much of our judgment, our misconceptions, they gradually vanished. We got much more clarity that sometimes when we latch on to highbrow jargon, we lose it. There is no clarity of meaning. But here, when we were doing the role play, we understood that it is wrong for us to judge a particular tribe, a particular race from our perspective. In fact, let us gain the knowledge, but let us leave the judgment outside. And once we keep that judgment outside, we automatically earn that, the license to be global citizens. Thank you.
Anything?
Might be different, but let me introduce Japanese CSR, how Japanese people are. We, as Japanese, tend to follow suit. So there's a saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. So we seek for conformity. We try to be united. And then when I was in high school, I was told to wait. Like, even though I tried raising my hands, but teachers told me to wait, like listen first. And then I was not able to be active in class. So we as Japanese are very shy and very modest. So in order to accept foreign people, it is kind of difficult still. So that is why we as teachers need to change their mind a little bit to be more global, to let them become aware of the importance of globalization. So that is why I feel so much responsibility, not to change the Japanese culture, but a little bit changing into adjusting to the globalization. So the existence of teachers is very important. Thank you.
I have such a terrible feeling because I see this wonderful person standing at the microphone, and I see this wonderful thing that says 1 minute and 10 seconds. That will not do justice to what it is you would like to ask, and I would like to give all of our panelists a chance. Please come and talk to us after this session. We'll definitely get your question organized. Thank you so much.
To say something because it's something to think about for the future. We're talking about large language models and their training. There's a lot of biases, there's a lot of problems with global citizenship and cross-cultural collaboration. People from all over the world are using ChatGPT and all these chatbots, and when they ask a question, it's always Western answers. What are you guys doing to think about these biases, and then what are the policies in the future, look into how to solve these issues? Thank you.
It's a nice thing that you mentioned it, but now that is the end of our time. We don't have any more time left. We want to be respectful of your time here in the audience as well. We very much appreciate the opportunity to have spoken to you all today. We'll all be here after the session if you would like to get in touch with any of us. I'd like to thank each of you individually for such wonderful contributions to our talk today, and look forward to working with you and collaborating on making more and better global citizens in our world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. Now, we'll make sure to connect later on so that your question can be answered. Absolutely.